Everybody, Cashflow Chris here, taking on.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Cashflow Chris here at
What's up, everybody? Cashflow Chris with Investors Edge Real Estate Group here. What's up, everybody? Welcome to day 4 of Traction. We are in this book of the month. We are evaluating Traction. What we do in our book club every single month is we choose a book that is implementable for small business owners. We read the book, we discuss the book, and then more importantly, we implement the book into our businesses. So thanks again for showing up, everybody. I appreciate it. This is a fully interactive presentation. You know, this is definitely not just me talking. I want you guys to participate. It looks like we got a couple new people on here. We got a couple people who have been here for the last few days. So definitely feel free to interject. I'll be asking you guys to participate. I'll be asking you guys to follow along. So please do so. It's not mandatory, but it's appreciated. So today we're on process. Today we're on process and traction. So last week we did chapters 5 and 6, which were data components and issues component. We kind of breezed through issues a little bit more, but I hope that was helpful. Hopefully you guys are working on this. So again, a couple of the documents that we need to be working on this is your VTO. So if you don't have it, Google Traction VTO. This is your Vision Traction Organizer. This is how you're going to document your business. Just to go over it for the new people, Jonathan, thanks for joining us, man. Core values, core focus, and then you're going to pick your long-term goal. You're going to pick your 3-year picture. What does it look like? I think that was day 2 that we went over that. You're going to break all that into your 1-year plan. And then today we're going to be talking a lot about rocks. We're going to be talking about rocks, which are your quarterly goals, your bigger quarterly goals that you want to accomplish. And then everything rolls through to your issues list once you start having your level 10 meetings, which we're going to talk about today. I'm really excited about this. This is where the rubber meets the road, so to say. So let's get going. I'll share my screen.
Hey, Chris, before you do that, I just wanted to say what's up to everybody. This is Jonathan Mark. I'm here in Houston, Texas. You know, I actually had Traction. I had the book for about a year now. I didn't read it until, you know, Chris started posting about it. So I'm glad I did. And it was really easy for me just to jump into chapter 7 and get an idea of what's going on. So, yeah, I'm just excited to, you know, kind of discuss what I've read the past couple of days. So
that's great, man. Yeah, thanks for joining us. So, you know, so like so many things in life, it's easy not to do. EOS is a fantastic system, and it's definitely something you can do. But yeah, man, I was in the same place. It took me 3 years to get my core values actually written down on paper. You know, it's always such a great idea, but that's why we really want to get together and implement what we learn here. So yeah, thanks for saying that. Thanks for introducing yourself. Chris, you want to introduce yourself if you're able to speak?
Hey, Chris Mayfield, Gilbert, Phoenix, Arizona. I've known Chris for actually a couple years. The deal when I first got started a little bit in Phoenix. I have to say I have not read Traction. I've read some other books, but I did say I wanted to jump on here and see what his program was as far as how you guys are congregating, talking things through. But I will how to say more by saying less.
Very good, man. Well, thanks for
letting me be here.
So we've got JT, we've got Stacy, Lucy. They've been here for a while. So pretty much everybody on here is in real estate. Kelly will probably jump on in a little bit, and Eric. They're both real estate agents. So EOS is for small businesses in general, but we do have a little bit of a real estate focus since that's what we all do. So let's get rolling. Chapter 7, the process component. Nothing can be fine-tuned until it is first consistent. The process component is strengthened through your understanding of the 6 to 10 core processes that make up your unique business model. How these processes work together is its unique system. To break through the ceiling and build a well-oiled machine, you need to process the ability to systematize. The culmination of identifying, documenting, and having everyone follow the core process of your business is your way. When you have a clear way, you immediately increase the value of your business, strengthen your control over it, and give yourself options. So process for me is super, super important, especially for us small business owners. Why? Because we're always saying nobody can do it as good as I can, right? Oh, this is why we don't give stuff away. Because first of all, most of us are control freaks. And second of all, we don't take the time to document the process and say, this is how it's done. For example,
It's always just up here,
right,
It's all
exactly.
in the head, yeah.
So for example, one place where we always run into this is with contractors. So let's just talk about a painter. A painter has his way, right? And so what a lot of people will do is they'll try to expand their business, that they'll bring on a couple other painters, but then they won't train them. And then they'll get frustrated because it's not being done the right way. So when you bring someone on, it's really simple. Okay, I'm sure anybody can paint, but this is how you paint when you work here. This is the process. I don't care if you edge by hand if you're amazing. In this process, we tape off. For example, you know what I mean? So processes are huge because this is the only way that we're going to actually be able to give things away to other people. So three points in documenting your core processes. Number one, you have to identify your core processes, which is huge. You're going to do that with your leadership team. Number two, break down what happens in each stage or in each process and then document it. Compile the information into a single package for everyone in your company. Your leadership team needs to identify and agree on what you call your 6 to 10 core processes. Take this initial step together so that you're calling your core processes the same thing. It's not an assignment to delegate to one person. Here's why. Once you start the discussion, you're going to find that you have different names for them and lack consensus on how many there are. For example, here's an example of common core processes. The HR process. How do you hire, fire, manage, review, promote? This is a huge one. If you want to bonus your people, how do you know how to do that? What's the process? Marketing, that's a big one as far as that's right here on page 1 of our VTO is our core focus. What's our marketing process? So how you do it and what you do and how you do it. Number 3, another one's a sales process. We're all in sales, every single one of us. If we don't sell, we don't have a business. So that's a process that I think that's another great example. We have real estate agents in here, or maybe we do it ourselves, but maybe it's done differently every single time. So even if you're listing your own properties or if you're selling it for somebody, again, step 1, this is how we do it. This is how we submit information into the MLS, where to get the information, how to get it, when we write it, time frames, all of that. The operations process, the way you make your product or provide your service to your customer. There are typically 1 to 3 core processes within operations. I don't want to get too deep because I want to get through this, but what are some operations processes in the wholesaling game? Acquisitions, right? Those of you who are out doing that, what are some core processes for your wholesaling business?
Well, definitely like pulling lists, curating those lists is really important. Skip tracing, I think that's going to be a process in itself. Managing your CRM and your follow-ups.
Yeah, beautiful follow-up.
Yeah.
What if you don't have a follow-up system?
And you're not making money.
Cracks.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
The accounting process. A lot of people don't even have that in their business because they don't want to deal with it. Most of us aren't accountants, and that's not important to us. But making sure the books are in place is important. Customer retention process. Oh my gosh, guys, this is huge for real estate agents. You would be amazed how about 90% of real estate agents don't have a customer retention process. When we were running our sales team before I got mostly into investing, one of our processes was to, whenever we sold a listing, we would add that buyer to our buyers list. Why? Because we knew that buyer's agent 9 times out of 10 is not going to follow up with them. So in 5 years, when they're ready to sell that house and the person who sold it to them, unless it's a friend or family, obviously, but that person who sold it to them, they've probably never contacted them. They've never called them. They've never sent a piece of marketing, email, anything. In the meanwhile, they've gotten our message every single year, every single quarter, you know, having that process. So just when you're in a business like we are, people are so lazy, man, lazy. Wholesalers, how many of you are saving your nose, right? How many people are going back? This is a perfect example right now. You got, you know, if you have a list of all the people who told you no and why, you know, a pandemic changes things for people. So, you know, right now would be a perfect time to be going back and letting them know, hey, I'm still interested. My price probably isn't what it was, but I'm still interested. And, you know, maybe their motivations have changed. So customer retention is huge, especially for real estate agents, guys. Repeat business. I mean, it's free for the most part. All right, so you've identified that step 2 is to document each core process. In this step, the accountability chart comes into play, which this is a big one, man. The accountability chart, we talked about that last week. And for those of you who weren't here, you know, you need to create that accountability chart so you know what needs to be done and, more importantly, who needs to do it. When we start holding our level 10 meetings, if you don't have an accountability chart, you're not going to know who has what. So that's a big one. You need to document the steps in the process at a very high level with several bullets under each step, which are procedures. This way you can make sure everyone is following the process. What you're illustrating are the basic guideposts to helping your people become consistent and efficient in your organization. A few things from the book that I noted. In this step, the accountability chart, we talked about that. When documenting the process, you should follow the 20-80 rule. We like to call it the 80-20 rule. 20% of focus and document the 20% of the process that produces 80% of the results. If you guys have any questions, just drop them here in the comments. We got one. Kelly is on the list. Oh, we're missing some people. There we go. Let's let Kelly in. All right. Welcome back, Kelly. All right.
Hey, Chris, I wanted to get your thoughts on this.
Yes, sir. Let's talk.
How do you guys look at, you know, these core processes and the owners of these processes when you're like a one-man show, or it's just you and an assistant or something like that?
What do you mean? How do you create the processes? So,
well, I understand like the process. So I have like essentially like 3 different businesses, or right now really 2. So I do flips and I do rentals.
Okay.
But pretty much like I manage the marketing. I'm the GC in my projects. I'm also property manager. So, you know, these are things that I definitely want to, you know, systematize and automate and, you know, give to someone else one day. But as of now, how do I manage? Do I just approach it like, okay, you know, I'm going to create all of these different processes, and like, you know, we're going to be talking about in chapter 8, like the big rocks for each one of these, and I'll own all of these different, you know, areas for one day somebody to take it over? Or do I find those pieces now and start delegating those tasks now?
You can definitely do it both ways. So if you go back a step, so one way that I think is a fantastic way to find out what your 80-20 stuff is is I have a, it's our 80/20 daily list. Here, I'll pull mine out. So what I do is I created this and I can share this with you, no problem. Every single day, most days, I fill this out. So over here on the left is it's just times, right? So I track my day. So I guess this was a couple Mondays ago. So I had my accountability group from 6 to 7, and then I worked on this is when I was doing my my SBA loans. I was applying from all our SBA loans for this crap that's going on. Here I took a lunch, I took a walk. This is when I worked on my taxes. So you document every single thing that you do during the day, okay? And the first thing, and so what that does is that lets you see where you're wasting time. Secondly, the second column is your to-do list. So anytime something pops in your head, I got to do this, it goes in the middle column. I love to go through all my text messages and then scroll through my emails as well and just get stuff down. Oh shit, got to do that, got to do that, got to do that. You're going to create your whole list. Lastly, the third column is your done list. So anything that comes from your to-do list that you actually did, pull it over here to your done list. And then anything that you did, but I didn't write it down over here, you write it over here, okay? So what you're gonna do, so now after a week, you're gonna have 100 different things that you did or that need to get done, right? And so what you do is you're gonna go rate them. You're gonna rate them on a level of 1 to 3. So first of all, you're gonna rate it on level of importance. How important is this task? If it's very, very important, it's a 1. And if it's not that important, it's a 3, okay? So you rate them 1, 2, or 3. Second, you're gonna rate them, how easy is this for somebody else to do? 1 to 3. 1 is very easy, you can easily pass that on to somebody else. 2, it's something that can be done by somebody else, but you're gonna have to document it, you're gonna have to train it. And then 3 is something like nobody else can do it, you have to do it. For example, opening a bank account. Your assistant can't go open a bank account for you. Signing loan docs, those types of things. And so now you have your whole list, you have 2 ratings. And so now you're gonna just go put them together. So you're gonna go pull your list of all your 1-1s. So it's very important and it's very easy for you to give away. That is your VA list. If it's a virtual, if not, it's your assistant. But that is the first list of everything that you have to give away. You should not be doing any of that stuff. Next is gonna be your 2-1s. So they're mid-level of importance, but again, they're super easy to give away. And those are the ones that you're gonna start doing your processes with. So take the first thing, let's see, what would an easy one be? So let's do let's see, Jordan, what are some of our 1-1s? What are some of the first things that we gave away to you guys? Okay, here we go. The reason I hired Jordan was the very first reason I hired, Jordan's my assistant right here. He's actually our team leader now. He got hired to scrub a beneficiary list. Yeah. So it had to be trained like barely, right? Because all he had to do is teach him 5 steps. Step 1, go into MLS. Step 2, open tax records. Step 3, click on this search. Step 4, go to the person and pull up the deed. Step 5, copy the deed, the name of the beneficiary into the spreadsheet. Repeat, right? So what was I having him create? I was having him create for us a list of private lenders. And it was a list that you can't pull anywhere, right? Not in Arizona, at least. So that's a really important list, right? And then hitting that list, mailing that list. So it's really important list for me to have, but that's not the best use of my time. I shouldn't be doing that shit. That's easy work. That's $6 an hour VA work. right? And eventually that's something that I had to get off Jordan's plate because it wasn't even in his 80/20. Still needed to be done, didn't need to be done by him. Okay. So that I think that's going to be the best place to start, finding out what you're doing, because whether you like it or not, you already have a process. It's just probably pretty crappy right now because it's not written down, it's not detailed. Maya's going to share the 80/20 list to you guys. So just get her your email or we'll post it. It's posted like everywhere, but we'll get it to you guys, no problem. Anybody else have any comments on that aspect of it? On how to find out what are your processes, what to do. So in the book, they're going to talk about how the person who does the process is the person who writes that down and documents the process. So that's going to be you, Jonathan, for everything right now but now when you hire your first VA or your first assistant, this is a great way to do it. So what Jordan and I would do is, okay, transaction management, right? That's something that needs to be trained, like definitely not something I need to be doing. So, but that was my job. So all we did was we would record it. He would be on it, Zoom with us. I would screen share, and I would run through how to do everything, and he would write it down. Step 1, step 2, step 3. And then to train, we would screen share and we would flip it, and he would do it, and I would watch him do it. And then I can tell him, no, click here, click there. And then, so now we're documenting the process. We know what needs to be done. We're documenting it. And that's just one. So and then you just got to do that times 100. You just got to do that over and over and over again. It is, it's liberating. Lets you get rid of shit, man, because there's so many little mundane tasks that are really super important and they need to be done. They just don't need to be done by you. And let me give you guys an example. SMS blasts, right? They're starting to slow down, but for the last year or so, they've been working really well. And so for our business, we need to have getting those blasted out daily is important, right? And so that's easy to do that. I mean, for a lot of systems, you can actually automate that. And we're going to talk about that as well, where you can automate things with technology. But going along with the compound effect, if you are blasting out 200 every day, you're going to have those leads coming in daily, daily, daily. If you blast it, get busy. Oh, tomorrow I don't show up. Or Wednesday I'm busy. Thursday I do it. Friday I forget. And then I do it late. And you know what I mean? Like, so something super easy as in clicking these 4 buttons for lead generation, that could completely derail your marketing and and everything. You know, we work so hard to create our systems on how to find leads, and then we let all these leads kind of slip through the cracks.
Yeah, definitely story of my life right there, especially when it comes to text, like, because I'm still managing it all myself. You know, I'll send out, 1,000 texts, 500 texts or whatever, respond to a couple of folks, go on an appointment, and then I completely forget to check back in and see if anybody else responded to, those 500 texts that I sent. And then a week or 2 later, I've seen all these responses and they've already moved on with another buyer or whatever. And I'm missing out on all these opportunities because I'm managing it all myself.
Yep.
That's, it's an important task, but those are things, if my strength is me going on appointments with sellers and closing the deal and finding private money to actually take these deals down, I should be focusing on that versus, the lead generation and the follow-ups and setting appointments and all that stuff. So perfect sense.
So Chris says, this is how I approach moving people into new spots to give away as much as possible. Step 1, I do, you watch, we talk. Step 2, I do, you help, we talk. Step 3, you do, I help, we talk. Step 4, you do, I watch, we talk. And step 5, you do, someone else. I love it. That's great. Let's move forward. All right, a few words on documentation. Did you? I don't know if you guys all. I know everybody hasn't read it, but here's a little great little story that I love. A man was once with his wife's family for Thanksgiving. During the preparation of the meal, he observed his wife cutting the back of the ham off before putting it in the oven. Curious, he asked her why she cut the off the ham. She responded, "It's tradition. It's the way we've always done it in our family." So her mother had just arrived. So he took the opportunity to go over and ask her why she cut off the back of the ham. And she said, "It's tradition. It's the way we've always done it." Fortunately, his wife's grandmother was also there. So he went to her and asked the same question. She replied, "Once upon a time, the pan was too small, and it was the only way to get the ham to fit in the pan." Like, that's huge. Just, this is the way that we've always done it is a really, really bad way of looking at things, especially in our day and age. Think about how we market. I don't know how many of you guys were in the business maybe 10 years ago. Business is completely different. And how we do business today is not how we're going to be doing business tomorrow. And definitely not how we're going to be doing business in 5-10 years. So definitely be willing to move. But yeah, you want to eliminate steps, condense steps, and put checklists in place where possible. Some steps in your process will easily be converted to checklists that can be used on the floor or in the field. Another advantage of simplifying each of the processes is to discover where technology can be applied. There are great software systems that connect your core processes and eliminate redundant steps. Zoom can be an amazing tool. Jonathan, if you fill this out, I would bet you money you are wasting hours and hours and hours a week driving from your house to the property, to Home Depot, to the property, to your house, where, first of all, you need to get some GCs in your life. That changed my business. That totally transformed my business. Like, when you said what you do, that like brought horror stories back to my head, because that was me, man. I did everything. I drove 30,000 miles a year. I was at every single property. One day I had like 14 Home Depot receipts. And I don't own a truck. I don't own a truck on purpose because I didn't want to be doing Home Depot runs. I had 14 Home Depot receipts from that day. I'm the CEO. And I'm doing the job of a runner, of a gopher. So hiring grown-up, mature adults, GCs, yes, you're going to pay them money. They deserve it. And that's how you can scale. So, but yeah, technology, man, getting on a Zoom call with your GC rather than actually showing up and could save you a lot of time.
Hey, Chris, can I ask this? Can you talk kind of financially how you do that? As far as I get the part, I'd just love to hear somebody else or any of you guys of how you guys make your decisions financially of when you're going to make your moves on bringing on different people. What's that process?
That's a great question. So personally for us, what did we decide? I set aside like 2 months salary or something like that. And we brought on 3 people to hire 2. And we went with VAs just because of the expense of it. You know, I had an assistant. She was fantastic. But man, when I found out I can get 3 Jordans for the cost of 1 Wendy, blew my mind. This dude's so talented, and because they live in another part of the world, you can pay them what is not a lot here, but is a pretty damn good wage there. You know what I mean? So our VAs are buying assets out there in the Philippines. So it's a win-win. It's a win-win. So yeah, so just set aside what's, $6 an hour times 20 hours a week, times a month. Now you got them for a month. And then if they haven't made you at least that amount of money by then, they're not worth it. Because the whole point is, I've always heard that anybody you hire should make you 3 times what they cost you. So maybe two times is a good rule of thumb, but definitely, and it's getting those little essentials off your plate. Does anybody else have anything to comment on that? How to know when to hire? Because I know we're a lot of one-man bands here. JT, have you guys hired?
Yeah, we've hired. I was just about to speak on that. I've also done like JV stuff with guys who have more experience than I do in the business, just to take some of that tasky stuff off, like analyzing reports, doing some of my broker friends are agents comping properties, having money lenders comp stuff for you before you get it out, kind of doing it a little bit backwards, but it really allowed me to learn and organize, step in that leadership. So when it comes to financially being able to do that, I mean, when you need to do that is when is your pain point high enough? You're going to take action, because if not, you just burn yourself out on both ends of the candle. And then when you're not 100%, how can you be 100% in the moment when you need to be in your business with relationships with people? So I think you hit it on the head, man. Those VAs are just, you spend the time on them, they're worth their weight in gold. And what do we all want? We all want freedom in this business. It's why we work for ourselves.
Right.
So that's what you need to keep in front of you. The money will come, especially if you're doing the processes.
So I think this is a good thing to start thinking differently. We kind of got off on the subject on the 80-20 list, but guys, your 1-3s, super important. Only you can do it. That's your to-do list. That's what you need to time block. Your 1-3s need to be done. That needs to be what you do first, and then back off of it, and then start doing everything else. So I'd say fill your calendar with all the most important stuff that only you can do, and then just start giving everything else away one step at a time. And as far as another thing that comes up, do you hire one person to do everything, or do you hire different people to do something that fills their strength? I would say ideally, like Jordan's a great jack of all trades. He's really good at everything, but he's even better when we have him focusing on a few core things. So yeah, so I guess bring on a VA, bring on your assistant, and then bring on their assistant, which is kind of your second person, so you can get all the stuff the easy stuff that, he doesn't need to be for 5 hours pulling data. So the titles of your core processes now become the table of contents. And we're talking about packaging it. Each documented process in step 2 becomes one of your sections. You can put them in a binder or on your computer intranet. It's funny, like, who the hell has a binder anymore? Lucy probably has a binder. You look like a binder type girl. But Lucy's a teacher, an ex-teacher.
I have one on my desk right now.
And hey, if it works for you, that's great. Personally, I just brought in, because we just moved offices just a little while ago, I brought in my filing cabinet over there because I had a few things that I have to kind of keep. But I'm finding out, like yesterday, I got our insurance paperwork, right? And I grabbed it and I filed it, and then I looked, I'm like, no, I don't know. I pulled it out, I scanned it, and I uploaded it to our drive. I'm like, I don't need this. So I think the only thing paper that I actually need these days are when they send us the actual deed, the original deed. Other than that, I think I can scan and throw everything else away. So, but
I keep my to-do list and stuff in there so I don't lose it.
Yeah, I like paper too, though. I do. I could never have my to-do list on my phone. I've tried it a million times. It doesn't work. I need to have it right here in front of me. And then I'll print, before I leave for the day, I'll print the one for tomorrow. Because if I have appointments, I'll go and I'll block them out. Or if it's something that's really important, I'm like, hey, I got to get in time for this. Block it off. And then, yeah, so everything here moves over, and then you block it off for the next day. And this will help you because you're paying attention. You're living your life intentionally. So many people who are new in the REI game, they just do busy work for hours at a time. And then they're like, oh, I'm always working this and that. But they're doing like 8 minutes of actual productive dollar producing activities. Same with realtors, they'll just, write down, messed around on Facebook. I was on IG for 48 minutes, you know, because we are, and you need to be cognizant of it. Stacy says her and her legal pads. Yellow legal pads everywhere we go. I like it. Okay, so then next you're going to be documenting it, and you're going to have a circle of life visual. So this kind of goes hand in hand with your accountability chart. And this is actually something you can do before you have your accountability chart. Here's what needs to be done. Now you can start putting names in those boxes on who's in charge of doing them. All right. That is the process component. Identify, document, package, and then followed by all, create your sort, which is circle of life model, train, and then manage. Let's move forward. We're probably going to go a little late on this one, guys. Followed by all, we talked about that. 8 is traction. Action is the process of doing. That's what this chapter is about. Gaining traction means making your vision a reality. Mastering the first 5 components was essential before tackling this component, because without them, you might gain traction, but in the wrong direction. When the first 5 components are strong, you will take off in the right direction towards your vision. The first 5 were vision, people, data, issues, process. And number 6 is traction. Most leaders know that bringing discipline and accountability to the organization will make people a little uncomfortable, that's an inevitable part of creating traction. What usually holds an organization back is the fear of creating this discomfort, but you don't have any other option if you want to build a great company. If you can accept the fact that you're going to make people a little uncomfortable for a short time, the solution is actually straightforward. You need to implement, oh, am I screen sharing or am I just reading? You guys are just watching me read. My bad. There we go. If you can accept the fact that you're going to make people a little comfortable for a short time, the solution is actually straightforward. You need to implement 2 simple practices. Number 1, everyone must set specific measurable priorities. Number 2, you must meet better as an organization, which are rocks and your meeting posts. There we go, rocks. Let me see if I missed anything in the book before this. Okay, so with a clear long-term vision in place, you're ready to establish short-term priorities that contribute to achieving your vision. You will establish 3 to 7 most important priorities for the company, the ones that must be done in the next 90 days. These are called your rocks. Your company will have rocks. Each member of your leadership team will have rocks, and your employees will also have rocks. The reason to limit rocks into 3 to 7 is that you're going to break the organization of the habit of trying to focus on everything at once. Who's guilty of that? It simply can't be done. By limiting priorities, you can focus on what is most important. Okay, so let's talk about rocks. Does anybody have a rock or 2 that they would like to demonstrate or give an example of? So one for us is, one of our rocks is 80. We have 80, we want to buy 80 rentals a year in Cleveland, 80 doors. And so our goal is 8 because we started 2 months late. So one of our rocks is the main rock is buy 8 properties, and then smaller rocks go into that. Anybody else want to add?
Our team got a rock, or it's JT, Chris, but our team has a rock of, what do you call it? Buying a deal a day. So we know our buy numbers, so that sounds pretty simple, but it's got to be our type of deal. There's a lot of things that have to fit that.
So the main company rock is buy a deal a day, and then the leadership team rock could be, make 10 offers, you know what I mean? And then the direct people underneath who are actually doing it, it could be, their rocks could be to
50 conversations.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Perfect, JT. Love it. So
one of my rocks after reading chapter 8 is definitely to document all of my processes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Perfect.
if I want to start delegating, some of these tasks off, I can't just keep it all up here. I have to, get it out on paper, get it on a PowerPoint slide, Keynote slide, or whatever, and be able to, disseminate this to whoever I bring on.
I love it. Your rocks could be, going through and just selecting what creating processes, or it could be a rock. But before that rock, it could be creating a list of processes, or, what are our priorities? And then again, it backs up. What are our goals? Backs up. What are our core values? So one of your main rocks could be get core values, quarter one, or we're going to focus on core values, core focus, and creating a long-term target. That those could be 3 of your rocks for Q1. But maybe saying, hey, we're going to do everything is too much. You need to know yourself. You need to know your organization. All right. JT, you got something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, this just came to mind, just being in the military real fast, that I didn't realize all the training that we were doing is basically almost the same thing. They just call the rocks SOPs, your standard operating procedures, So just making it simple was always beat into us first. The acronym KISS, keep it simple, stupid, in everything that you do. Because if you can communicate it to a 6-year-old, it will be implemented.
Absolutely. Like a big rock for a real estate agent could be to contact all of your clients. That could sound daunting. Oh, I have, a list of 500 people. How come I can contact them all? Well, once a quarter, and then now you're breaking it down into bite-sized chunks, and it is call 5 people a day, and it's not that big a deal. You know what I mean? So when talking about establishing your rocks, step 1, after reviewing your VTO, your leadership team lists everything on a whiteboard that has to be accomplished in the next 90 days. Step 2, with that list of 10 to 20 items in front of you, discuss, debate, and determine the most important priorities for the company, again, for the next 90 days. Make a decision on each one, whether to keep it, kill it, or combine it as a company rock. Step 3, set a date that the rocks are due. This is typically by the end of the quarter. Now define each one by making sure the objectives are clear. This is vital. A rock, as JD said earlier, he said keep it simple, stupid. A rock is specific, measurable, and attainable. For example, close 3 core accounts or hire a new controller. A rock is not a to-do that is open-ended or vague. Start working on customer service process is not specific, measurable, and attainable, and therefore is not a good rock. A rock must be clear, so at the end of the quarter, there's no ambiguity whether it was done or not. Here's an example of 4 company rocks that were set and defined. Close $1 million in new business. You can define that, right? How much did you close? Did you close $1 million? No. Okay. Document delivery process and train all. Narrow CFO candidates to 2. Implement new information system software. So implement could be a little bit vague, I imagine, but is it implemented or is it not implemented? Is kind of cut and dry. Step 4, assign who owns each rock. Rocks must be owned by one and only one person on the leadership team. The owner is the person who drives the rock to completion during the quarter by putting together a timeline, calling meetings, and pushing people. At the end of the quarter, the owner is the one that everyone looks at to assure the rock was completed. So yeah, so your leadership team is going to get the big stuff, and then they're going to pass it down. Step 5, once the company rocks are set, the members of the leadership team each set their own rocks. Come up with their most important 3 to 7 as well. Step 6. Lastly, you're going to create what's called a rock sheet. At the top of the organization's at the top are the organization's rocks. Below that are each leadership, and then each team individuals. This rock sheet is brought to your weekly meetings to review your rocks. It helps create clear accountability and focus on what is the highest priority in the organization. Here is their example of what that looks like. Oh, step 7, share the rocks with your organization. Step 8, have each department set their own rocks. I know this is getting a little bit leveled. A lot of us are just one-man bands or just a few people, so we won't dive too deep. A couple rock traps and pitfalls. Garbage in, garbage out. If you set the wrong rocks, you'll spend an entire quarter pointed in the wrong direction. Next, it takes 2 quarters to master the rocks, so be patient. Number 3, commitments fizzle. This is one of the reasons they make them 90-day goals. Making year goals are daunting, and people will, you know, like setting big goals. Like losing weight's a great one on this one. You know, if your goal is to lose 100 pounds, good luck, right? I want to lose 100 pounds, you know. You don't know when, you don't know when, you know, it's not going to happen. But if you want to lose 10 pounds by you know, in the next 8 weeks by doing this, that's something that's absolutely attainable. So keeping that commitment. Don't go too big. Too big will kill you. Too many rocks. Self-explanatory. Lastly, they want to go over the meeting pulse. And this is a big one, guys. I think this is one of the most important things to implement. So they're talking about your 90-day world. As a part of your vision, you created a 3-year picture. After that came a 1-year plan, and now a 90-day world. So the EOS quarterly meeting pulse. Okay, here, let me read through this real quick. For now and forever, let's dispel the myth that all meetings are bad, that meetings are a waste of time, and that there are already too many of them. The fact is that a well-run meeting are the moment of truth for your accountability. To gain traction, you'll probably need to meet even more than you presently do. The meeting pulse is your organization's heartbeat. It operates just like an EKG illustrating a spike. The more you can increase the meeting interval, the more spikes you'll get and the more business you will finish. Okay? So let's dive into this. So we have, for our recession-proof investments, for our buy and hold side of the business, we hold weekly meetings. And guys, if you ever want to be able to pull yourself out of the business, which we do, that's why we have Jordan and Maya and Eve and all these team members. We're teaching them what to do. We're creating the processes. And then now we've gotten to a place now, don't get me wrong, throughout the week, we're in and out all day, every day, right? So we are involved in the business, but they do most of it. Every Wednesday we meet, and because we have 3 major markets. So we have Cleveland, and then we have 2 apartments that we have to do. And Jordan, what do you think? We're at about 2.5 hours now, right? 2 to 3 hours is typically what we're spending in this meeting.
30 to 45 minutes per apartment.
Right. So for BP and myself, that's where we're getting to where once we can start, because much less of the little things are popping up, because now Jordan has experienced this issue 4 times now. And so now we know what is protocol. You know, we know when this happens, this is what we do. This is what the owners want. So there's very few questions that they have for the owners, which is me and BP, right? So we've gotten our 100+ portfolio down to a 3-hour-a-week process. And then eventually we want to get that even shorter. And then eventually we want to get to where we don't even need to go to those meetings, where they can send us a 1 sheet, and that's going to be a snapshot. That's going to have all the numbers to tell us how our business is running. You know, what are some of those numbers? What's our occupancy? How many people do we have in eviction status? You know, those types of numbers are going to really tell the story. I don't need to know, like, think about somebody who owns, you know, 1 million rentals. Do they need to know the ins and outs of did Jane Smith do this or pay that? No, like if I want to run my business, I can't even know the names of my tenants. Jordan better know all of them. And Marge, who is in constant communication with them, yeah, they know them. They know them very well. But if I ever want to grow and be top level, I can't be down in the doing the mundane tasks that the team is supposed to do. So pulling yourself out is big. Does anybody have anything before we move on?
How did you get over that hump of I'm the best at it all, I understand it all, I need to be in control, because if I delegate this task, nobody's going to be able to do it as good as I can?
Burnout, man. Burnout. I got
Hey.
tired of 70-hour weeks.
Yeah.
Jonathan, if I could say one thing, I don't know you, but I think in all organizations, I came out of running large organizations before I was doing real estate. And number one, I would find somebody and I would know that I probably could do it better than them at this moment. But if I would stick with them and even let them and understand it's going to take a dip, and they might even do it a little bit different than you, but as long as they're getting the job done exactly the way you want. So you got to let them have a little bit of a learning curve, see a dip, but stick with them. And I guarantee if they are producing double your income or triple, if you'll stick with them, I guarantee 6 months down the road, they'll actually be showing you how they're doing it better than you.
Wow.
And so I think sometimes, like Chris said at the very beginning of this meeting, it's a pride thing. We're afraid to share. I mean, for me, I'm different. I worked with the guru, and even though I didn't enjoy some of it, one thing I did love is he said this: I'll give away anything, because I know maybe 2 or 3% of the people will actually go do it. So for me, I want to find somebody, when I find somebody, teach them so that they do such a good job that they come to me and say, hey, I think I'm going to go out on my own and do this same thing. And what I do is I bless them. I send them out the door and go for it, because if I'm not a jerk, if I love them well, and then they go out there and they go, dang, I got to pull lists, I got to do that. Guess what? I bet they eventually come back. Many will come back to you and say, I like my spot on the bus. I don't think I want to be in the driver's seat. So for me, it's not about competition. It's about collaboration. So I would just say it's harder for us because we know so much more than they do.
Yeah.
If you stay with them, I guarantee 6 months, 9 months down the road, they'll actually be teaching you things in that same spot that you used to leave. But that's my 2 cents.
No, I love that perspective, man. Appreciate both of y'all's perspective on that. That's dope. Yeah.
I could kind of chime in on this too myself. I've had what he talked about, Chris. That someone was in acquisitions for me for about he was door knocking first, and then he became acquisition marketing, and he left. And yeah, he saw how tough it was. He didn't come back necessarily to become like to keep remaining as acquisitions, but he still sends me deals sometimes. Stuff he doesn't know how to close. I help him out, so he still brings me business, right? Because I didn't end the relationship in a nasty way, right? I wasn't happy about it. It did affect my business, but like I learned a whole bunch of things from that person. So the next person I ever bring on board in the future, which I don't need a person right now until I get more deal flow going through. I know when the time will be when I'll need someone, but I learned that you don't want, even if, like you said, Chris, sometimes people will go on their way, whatever, but at the same time, you can't be afraid of that. You just have to go through the experience, and I like with the VAs, I tried to do different things. I put videos together, and I put a document, like a word, like a guide that's had like a snapshot, do this step, snapshot, this step. I've done those things. It's really a kind of a burdensome, annoying little process that you gotta complete yourself. But the people will sometimes say, you know what, they may switch it up a little bit, and then it may be easier for them, right? But it still gets the job done. And so, I've been through some things myself, but I would say I would agree with Chris.
Well, one, not to I definitely don't want to hijack, but I want to say one more thing. We as leaders need to take strong looks at ourselves. A lot of times people leave because our vision's not large enough. And we got to be okay with that and know, hey, I've got some self-growth and some transformation, that needs to take place. Maybe I need to go down a little bit before I come. But a lot of times people leave because our vision's not large enough.
Great point. And
That's good.
yeah, and this that just goes to the point to where the stronger your systems and processes, it's not that every person needs to be interchangeable, right? You need to bus proof every single one of your positions, where if they get hit by a bus, you can have someone else up and running, because we can't be reliant upon one single person. That's why they come in and they work your process the way that you train. So everybody's replaceable, especially us. Hopefully, we all want to get out. So that's not the end of the chapter, but a lot of what the chapter is remaining goes over the processes of your yearly meeting, your quarterly meetings, and then your weekly meetings. So when you're ready to start implementing your meetings, this is where you're going to go back to chapter 8. They're going to give you lots of tips and tricks, and they're actually going to give you the entire process. I don't want to it'll probably take another half hour to go over those. But what I do want to go over real quick is your level 10 weekly meeting agenda, okay? So before you do this, you got to have your yearly, set your year goals, and then you're going to do your quarterlies, and then it's going to break down into your weeklies. So this is your meeting pulse actions. Hold on, let me make sure I didn't miss anything. So your weekly meeting pulse, who is it? Is your leadership team. Where? Conference room. Duration 90 minutes. Frequency every single week. Pre-work, rocks established and rock sheet created. Scorecard complete. Issue solving track understood by everyone, okay? So the agenda is the segue. Arrive a few minutes early, only if again, guys, this is the most important meeting of the week. This is a mandatory meeting. It's held at the same time every week, same place, and everybody is required to come. Only vacation or sick days are the only reason that people miss. Not, oh, I got a call with one of my customers. No, you time block every X day at this time, you're busy, okay? Everyone should have a copy of the agenda placed in front of them. Your to-dos and IDS list should be included in the actual printed agenda. Everyone should have their own sheet, so you no longer have to take meeting minutes. Next is the scorecard review. We went over the scorecard already a couple days ago, and that's your 5 to 15 most important numbers in the organization, and make sure they're on track. Any numbers that are not on track are dropped to the IDS, which is to the IDS portion of the meeting, which is the identify, discuss, solve. That's your issues list. Avoid any discussions here, all right? When you're doing this part of the meeting, all you're doing is, here's my scorecard, I'm on track or I'm not on track. The biggest pitfall is that teams launch right into discussing and trying to solve an issue right now. Don't do it, put it on your issues list. Next is your rock review. You review each rock one at a time. First your company rocks, and then each person's individual rocks. Each person reports his or her rock, whether it's on track or off track. No discussion. If you're on track, that means you're going to accomplish it by the end of the quarter. If you're off track, it goes on the IDS. Next, customer/employee headlines. This is where you share short and sweet headlines about any customer or employee news or issues for the week, either good or bad. Any issues, bad news, or concerns should be dropped to the IDS portion of the agenda. Next is your to-do list. You review all to-dos from last week's meetings. To-dos are 7-day action items. To-dos consist of the commitments people make throughout the week that typically don't get captured. Quickly review, and from a standpoint of done or not done. If the to-do is not done, strike it. If it's done, strike from the list. If it's not, leave it on the list. Note, an action item should not remain on the to-do list for more than 2 weeks, and 90% of them should drop off every week. Traction and accountability are created when these weekly commitments are captured on a to-do list and reviewed for completion the following week. The days of making a commitment, knowing that no one's going to confirm that it was done, quickly fade. This agenda should take less than 5 minutes. Next is the IDS. This is where the magic happens. This is your issues list. This part should always take up the most time in your meeting. On average, about 3 to 5 issues on the list will come from last week's meeting. During the reporting this week, you will have added new issues, about 5 to 10 on average. So typically the list contains 5 to 15. Very important here, guys. This is vital. Decide which issues are number 1, 2, and 3. Start only with the top 3. Don't just go make a list and then just go from the top. No, you go over the list. What are the 3 most important? And that's where you get started. The main point being is because you're going to run out of time.
Hey, Chris, what page are you on again? What page?
Page 194. Once the issues have been identified, discussed, and solved, the solution usually turns into a plan of attack that ends up on your to-do list. Lastly, you're going to conclude the meeting. You can frame everything that was discussed and make sure no loose ends are left. Each concluding has 2 parts. First, you recap your new to-do list. Second, discuss whether any messages need to be communicated to the organization based on decisions you make today, how you're going to communicate them, and what medium you're going to use. And then here a brief little point. He added a 3rd item. Have everyone, this is at the beginning when you're just getting started, have everyone on the team rate the meeting on a scale of 1 to 10. Your goal should be an 8 or better. And then 5 points on the weekly meeting. Number 1, same day of the week. Number 2, same time. Number 3, have the same printed agenda. Number 4, start on time. Number 5, end on time. So yeah, meeting pulse actions. Yeah, so there's action steps. And that's about it. So we have concluded chapter 7 and 8. So next week we are going to put a pin in this, but I want you guys to show up next week ready to talk. I want everybody to have filled out their VTO to your best capability. You know, if you just, and then that if you just can't figure it out, that's fine. That's where we want to talk about it, because this is where the implementation starts, right? So we're going to go over chapter 9, putting it all together, and then chapter 10, getting started. But a big portion of it is we're going to be going over each one of our own VTOs. We're going to talk about what we learned, what some of our rocks are, and what we're going to do to get started. So everybody who's new, I hope you come back. Everybody who's been coming, you know, definitely show up. Kelly, I appreciate your consistency. Same with you, Lucy. I'm hoping that this is really helping everybody. Questions, comments, suggestions?
This was dope. Definitely appreciate you guys having me out this week. I will catch up. The book is a super easy read, so I can knock it out, you know, over the weekend and get started on all my docs and have that ready for next meetup. So count me in for sure.
So a little trick that, I don't know, maybe other people do it, but this has super resonated with me. So I'm a listener. I don't like reading books. Books like this, you have to have a hard copy. You just can't do it otherwise. So what I do before each chapter is, so I have it on Audible and I have it in book copy. I throw Audible on at 2 times the speed and I listen. And as I go, I listen and I read at the same time. Something resonates, I pause, I go back, I highlight. Dude, oh my God, I've been flying through these books. These 2 chapters were, I think, 75 minutes total combined. 30 minutes, 35 minutes. I'm through these chapters. So this is how I've been tackling a lot of books that are kind of like this. Just because, yeah, I get bored reading. So
Yeah, that's actually my strategy too. I put it at 1.75.
yeah.
The only thing that's different with me is I'm not a highlighter. I'm like I have my notes app on my laptop, so I'll pause, write down a bullet, and then get back to it. So it takes a little longer for me because I'm writing out my notes and stuff. But I love like mashing the audio with the physical reading of it because I'm focused and I'm staying with it and I'm not getting distracted by the birds chirping or my girl like asking me what I want for dinner and all that stuff. So I'm just kind of locked in. So yeah.
Well, yeah, we all got it, man. They just want to communicate, man. They just want to communicate. All right. Anybody else got anything? All right. Well, thanks for showing up, guys. I look forward to next week. So yeah, so next week, chapter 9, chapter 10. Print your VTO. If you don't have a printer and you're in lockdown, write it out. No excuses. And let's talk about this. If you guys missed any of the previous, everything's on YouTube. Cashflow Chris with a K. And then this one will go up. By Monday, it'll be up. So
you said that's called BTO?
Yeah, Vision Traction Organizer. If you actually
V is in Victor TO. Okay.
Victory,
V is a boy.
yeah. If you guys need anything, reach out to Maya. She runs the Instagram page. She runs the Facebook page. Send her a message. She'll send you any of these documents, our 80/20, the VTO. We got copies of just about everything. So appreciate you all.
You want us to do the whole entire VTO?
I do.
The both pages? Or
Both
just the first page? Okay.
Both pages, except you're probably not going to have your issues list unless you've done a meeting, because that's where most of your issues lists come up. So everything on page 1, and then that rolls to page 2, which is your 1-year plan. And then from your 1-year plan, you're going to come up with your rocks. And it doesn't got to be perfect. It doesn't got to be complete. Just do the best you can, and let's talk about it. And then other people will give ideas, and it'll help you come up with it. Other people who have done it before, it really helps out. So,
okay.
All right. Thanks, guys.
See you next week.